The cameras had barely stopped rolling when whispers started spreading like wildfire across Atlanta. It was Mendeecees who dropped the bomb, and fans swear they've never seen the cast this shaken before. One single revelation was enough to send shockwaves through the set. Kirk and Kendra have been hiding something from all of you. That's what he said, with a calm but cutting tone, as though he had been waiting years to let it slip. The studio froze. Rasheeda's eyes widened, and the tension in her jaw told a story words couldn't capture. The audience leaned forward, sensing that whatever was about to come next would change everything. For years, viewers believed they knew the truth about Kirk and his messy trail of scandals. But Mendeecees' revelation didn't just reopen old wounds, it tore them wider. What secret could tie Kirk and Kendra together? A bond so deep and so well hidden that even Rasheeda, who stood by her husband through every storm, was blindsided. Fans flooded social media within minutes, posting clips, GIFs, and wild theories. Is Rasheeda finally done? One comment screamed, not Kendra being in on this too. Another fan tweeted, gathering thousands of retweets in less than an hour. The internet was alive, buzzing with suspicion, betrayal, and heartbreak. Inside the green room, the atmosphere was unbearable. Rasheeda stood up, pacing, her voice trembling. Tell me this is a lie, Kirk. Look me in the eye and tell me he's lying. Kirk couldn't answer right away. His silence was louder than any confession, and the cameras zoomed in on every flicker of guilt that crossed his face. Kendra tried to step in, but her voice cracked when she did. This wasn't supposed to come out like this. Mendeecees sat back in his chair, satisfied, almost daring them to deny it. The drama was no longer just a storyline. It was raw, messy, and all too real. And at the center of it all stood Rasheeda, betrayed yet again. As fans asked the question nobody wanted to answer, is this the final straw that ends her marriage? The moment Mendeecees let those words fall into the room, it was like the air got heavier. Nobody blinked, nobody moved, and for the first time in a long time, even the background chatter of producers and crew went dead silent. Rasheeda sat frozen, her manicured nails digging into her palms as if she was holding herself together by force. The weight of her marriage had always been tested in public, but never like this. Kirk shifted in his seat, tugging at the collar of his shirt, his usual arrogance crumbling in the face of Mendeecees' calm stare. Say it, man. Mendeecees pressed, his voice steady, deliberate, like he was unwrapping a secret piece by piece for the world to see. Tell her the truth before I do. Kendra sat on the far end of the sofa, her leg bouncing nervously. She tried to look anywhere but Rasheeda, but the cameras caught every flinch, every dart of her eyes. Yandi, seated beside her, leaned forward with a smirk that wasn't playful, it was sharp, laced with judgment. Oh, so this is what we're doing. We're airing out dirty laundry that's been festering for years. Her tone was mocking, but her eyes flickered with something more, maybe satisfaction at watching cracks form in Kirk's carefully managed facade. The audience gasped when Rasheeda's voice finally broke through the tension. Kirk, what is he talking about? The strength in her voice wavered, landing somewhere between a demand and a plea. Kirk swallowed hard, his hand gripping the edge of the sofa as though it would anchor him from drowning in this revelation. Babe, it's complicated, he started, but Rasheeda cut him off with a sharp laugh that bordered on hysteria. Complicated? After all these years, after all the humiliation, now you want to tell me something's complicated? The energy on set shifted. Even the other cast members who were used to drama, Carly Red, young Jock, Spice, sat wide-eyed, their reactions genuine. Jock muttered under his breath, man, this ain't the kind of tea anybody was ready for. Carly, never one to miss a moment, leaned forward as if she could physically pull the truth out of Kirk with her stare. The tension turned into heat, a wildfire of accusation and silence, until Mendeecees leaned back and delivered the blow. Tell her about the deals with Kendra. Tell her why you two been covering for each other. Tell her why your marriage was just the cover story. The words echoed, bouncing off every wall of the studio. Rasheeda's hand flew to her mouth, her chest rising and falling rapidly, like her body was rejecting the weight of what she just heard. The cover story, she whispered, as though saying it out loud might make it disappear. Kirk looked from Mendeecees to Kendra, then to Rasheeda, his silence the loudest answer of them all. And just like that, the audience erupted. Fans at home began clipping the moment, sharing it across Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Kirk and Kendra. Nah, I need a whole explanation. One fan typed. Another comment read, not Mendeecees snatching wigs and exposing family secrets. This season just went nuclear. The cast wasn't the only group reacting. The streets of Atlanta were buzzing, gossip spreading like a virus. What did Mendeecees know that nobody else dared to say? And why did Kendra look like she was about to break down if none of it was true? Rasheeda rose to her feet, the fury in her body trembling through her voice. How dare you sit here, smiling, lying to my face all these years? You had me standing by your side, defending you, forgiving you, and this is what I get. Her voice cracked as she pointed directly at Kirk, her tears falling freely now. Every sacrifice I made for this marriage, every time I swallowed my pride while people laughed at me, you were hiding this. Kirk tried to speak, his voice low, broken. It wasn't supposed to go this far. It wasn't supposed to come out like this. The words made Rasheeda's knees buckle, and she sat back down heavily, burying her face in her hands. The producers circled nervously, unsure if they should cut to commercial or let the chaos unfold. But there was no containing it. This wasn't scripted drama anymore. This was real, raw, and spiraling out of control. Kendra finally found her voice, trembling but loud enough for everyone to hear. We didn't plan for this to destroy anyone. We had an agreement. The crowd gasped. Fans at home hit rewind, and Rasheeda's head shot up with a look that could shatter glass. Agreement? What agreement? What the hell are you talking about? Kendra wiped her tears, her voice cracking as she tried to explain. It wasn't about love, it was about protecting reputations, protecting families. There are things you don't know, Rasheeda, things that would ruin more than just a marriage. This was bigger than you. The words hit like daggers. Bigger than her. Rasheeda couldn't believe what she was hearing. So my entire life, my marriage, my name, was just some collateral damage in your little scheme. Her fury filled the room, her anger sharp enough to slice through every layer of deception. Mendeecees leaned forward, his tone almost smug. See, I told y'all, the truth always comes out. You thought you could bury it, but look around. The world knows now. Kirk slumped back, his face pale, sweat forming at his temples. The weight of decades of lies pressed down on him, and he couldn't find a way out. Rasheeda, her chest heaving, turned to the cameras, her voice shaking with both anger and heartbreak. You all watching at home, you all been rooting for me, praying for me, and now you see what I've been up against. A man who couldn't be honest, a marriage built on secrets, and friends who sat back and let it happen. The audience clapped, cheered, shouted, every emotion pouring out at once. Fans at home lit up the comment sections. Rasheeda deserves better. This is the final straw. Kirk is done. The producers realized they had just struck reality TV gold. Every angle, every word, every tear would be replayed for weeks. But the human cost was undeniable. Rasheeda, sitting there broken, yet still holding herself upright, had become the center of a storm she never asked for. Kendra, shaking uncontrollably, couldn't meet her eyes. And Kirk, silent and defeated, had nothing left but the truth that was no longer his to hide. As the cameras zoomed in one final time, Rasheeda's voice cut through the chaos, cold and final. This marriage, this sham, it's over. And I want everyone to hear me say it. The audience screamed, the cast gasped, and social media exploded in real time. The Frost Empire was crumbling, live on camera, and no one could stop it. The words hung in the air like smoke after a fire, thick and suffocating. It's over. Rasheeda's voice wasn't just a statement, it was a sentence. A final judgment ringing out across the stage and spilling into every living room tuned in. The audience was stunned into silence for a split second, then erupted into wild screams, gasps, and shouts. Even the seasoned cast, who had lived through years of chaos, betrayal, and messy scandals, sat frozen. Kendra's lips trembled as if she wanted to stop Rasheeda from saying more, but she couldn't. Kirk buried his face in his hands. The man who once prided himself on controlling every narrative, suddenly powerless before the cameras, before the world, before his wife's wrath. Mendeecees leaned back, arms folded across his chest, his eyes cold and satisfied. He had lit the match, and now he watched the flames devour everything. Yandi, beside him, shook her head with a smile that was more pity than amusement. Ooh, I told y'all men ain't built for all that lying. It always catches up. Jock stood up from his chair, pacing in disbelief, muttering under his breath, this is wild. This is next level. Carly Red's eyes gleamed as if she had just been gifted the juiciest gossip of her life. Oh my god, Rasheeda, you serious right now? You really saying it's done? Rasheeda turned her glare toward Carly, her voice raw. Don't play with me, Carly. I ain't saying it for TV. I'm saying it because I'm done being made a fool. The crowd clapped, half in support, half in sheer thrill at the spectacle unraveling in front of them. Some were shouting Rasheeda's name, some were booing Kirk, and others were chanting for security because the tension was so sharp, nobody could predict the next move. Kirk finally lifted his head, his voice hoarse. Rasheeda, please, don't do this here. Don't let him tear us apart like this. He pointed a shaky finger at Mendeecees, but the damage was already done. Rasheeda laughed bitterly, wiping her tears. You did this, Kirk. Not him, not her. You let secrets rot our marriage until there's nothing left. Kendra, who had been silent, broke into sobs. Her mascara streaked down her cheeks as she tried to explain. We never wanted it to hurt you, Rasheeda. It was about protecting something bigger than us. Her words made the audience groan in disbelief. Bigger than them? What could possibly justify betraying Rasheeda? A woman who had stood by Kirk through every scandal, every humiliation, every late-night rumor. Rasheeda shook her head in disgust. Protecting what? Your ego? Your image? Your careers? You two used me as the shield so nobody would see the filth behind closed doors. Yandi jumped in, her voice sharp. See, that's the problem right there. Y'all men want to protect everybody but the woman standing by you. The woman holding down the house, the family, the business. She turned to Rasheeda, her tone softening. Sis, you don't owe him nothing. You don't owe them nothing. You already gave more than anybody else would have given. The audience roared in agreement, clapping and cheering Yandi's words. Jock threw his hands up, pacing faster. This is too much. This right here. This is bigger than just a storyline. This is real life crumbling in front of us. The cameras zoomed in on Rasheeda's face, wet with tears but strong, almost regal in her anger. She stood up again, her voice firm. You want to know what the hidden truth is, Mendeecees? It ain't just that Kirk and Kendra had secrets. It's that I gave up my peace, my dignity, for a man who couldn't give me the bare minimum, and I refused to lose one more night of sleep over it. She looked at Kirk, her voice lowering but cutting deep. You made me your partner in pain. Now I'm making myself my own priority. The entire stage shook with the weight of her words. Kirk tried to get up, reaching for her hand, but she pulled away with a force that made the audience gasp. Don't touch me. Not here. Not now. Maybe not ever again. He froze, tears welling in his eyes, a sight fans weren't used to seeing. For once, Kirk Frost wasn't the smooth-talking manipulator. He was just a man crumbling under the truth he couldn't control. Rasheeda's declaration was final, but the fallout was only just beginning. Backstage, producers scrambled, whispering into headsets, trying to decide whether to intervene or let the cameras capture what was quickly becoming the most explosive moment in franchise history. Security edged closer to the stage, unsure if the boiling emotions would erupt into something physical. The cast whispered among themselves. Spice shook her head in disbelief. Sierra clasped her hands to her mouth, and Scrappy muttered, Man, Kirk done lost everything in one night. Social media was in full meltdown mode. Clips of Rasheeda's declaration hit millions of views within minutes. Fans were tweeting, This ain't love and hip-hop no more. This is love and war. Instagram comment sections were flooded with hashtag Team RASHEEDA, and TikTok edits of her yelling, It's over spread like wildfire. The Frost marriage, once shaky but surviving, had become the centerpiece of national gossip. Even celebrities outside the show began chiming in, dropping subtle reactions on Twitter. The betrayal wasn't just entertainment anymore, it was a cultural moment. And still, questions lingered. What exactly had Kirk and Kendra been hiding all these years? Why was Mendeecees the one to expose it? And what did he gain from unraveling the Frosts? The fans demanded answers, and the tension promised that more bombs were on the way. Rasheeda stood her ground, fierce and unshaken, while Kirk's silence condemned him, louder than any confession could. Kendra's tears blurred into the stage lights, her sobs echoing, but no one, not Rasheeda, not the audience, seemed to have sympathy for her. Mendeecees leaned back, eyes glinting with triumph. For him, this was only the beginning. The stage had turned into a battlefield of words, tears, and silence. And at the center of it all, sat Mendeecees, with that unshakable calm. The kind of calm that comes from knowing you've detonated a bomb no one can defuse. His eyes scanned the chaos. Rasheeda, trembling with fury, Kirk drowning in shame. Kendra collapsed in tears. The cameras caught everything, every twitch, every flicker of emotion, broadcasting it live to fans who could hardly believe what they were witnessing. The crowd in the studio shouted over each other, half demanding more truth, half calling for Rasheeda to walk away for good. The producers didn't dare cut to commercial now. This was the kind of raw, unscripted chaos that television executives pray for but never expect to get. Rasheeda stood again, her voice like a blade slicing through the noise. No more games. I want answers, right here, right now. Tell me what the hell this so-called truth is that y'all been hiding, because if you don't, I swear I'll never speak to either of you again. Her eyes burned holes through Kirk and Kendra. Kendra shook her head, her shoulders trembling as she whispered, it's not my place. Rasheeda snapped back instantly, her voice rising. Not your place. You've been sitting in my face all this time, smiling, pretending, while I defended you as Jock's wife, as part of this circle, and you mean to tell me it's not your place to come clean? The audience erupted in gasps and Kirk, still hunched forward, tried to interject. Rasheeda, please, let's talk about this off camera. This ain't how it's supposed to go down. But she whipped around on him, her voice raw with rage. Off camera? That's your problem. You care more about the cameras than about your damn wife. Mendeecees finally leaned forward, his voice steady but loud enough for everyone to hear. Then I'll say it. Since y'all scared, I'll put it out there plain. The entire room froze. The audience hushed, waiting for the bombshell. Even Carly Red, who normally lived for messy reveals, looked nervous as if she knew this wasn't just another rumor. Kirk and Kendra, Mendeecees said slowly, pausing between each word. Been tied together way before this show ever put a spotlight on them. Business deals, money under the table, favors exchanged. But it didn't stop there. They built a pact to protect each other, even if it meant lying to everybody else including you, Rasheeda. Gasps rippled across the stage, the kind of sound that comes when a whole room has its heart drop at the same time. Rasheeda staggered back a step as though the words had physically struck her. A pact? She repeated, her voice shaking. You mean to tell me my husband has been tied up in some secret arrangement with her this whole time? Mendeecees nodded. It's deeper than you know. The businesses y'all run, the checks that went missing, the names on paperwork that didn't add up. Kendra was in it. They covered for each other, and you were left in the dark. That's the truth. The audience exploded into chaos. Fans in the room screamed what? While people at home flooded timelines with hashtags like hashtag Kirk and Kendra exposed and hashtag RASHEEDA deserves better, Twitter trended within minutes. Memes of Kirk sweating, Kendra crying, and Rasheeda pointing a finger filled Instagram. The streets were alive with speculation, theories spiraling about what deals could be serious enough to risk a marriage. Kendra finally broke, her voice cracking as she sobbed out. It wasn't like that. It wasn't to hurt you, Rasheeda. It was about survival. We had to protect certain things, money that couldn't be explained, investments that would have dragged everybody down if they came out. Rasheeda's face twisted with disbelief. You mean to tell me you let me sit at dinner tables with you, toast with you, laugh with you, while you were knee-deep in my husband's mess, and you kept it from me? Do you have any idea how low that is? Kendra's tears came harder, but sympathy in the room was gone. The audience booed. Even Jock, usually protective of his wife, looked stunned, muttering, Kendra, what did you do? Kirk tried one last time to save face, his voice rising above the noise. It wasn't supposed to be like this. We were trying to handle things, to keep the family safe, to make sure nothing blew back on you. But his excuses fell flat. Rasheeda's laugh cut through the room like broken glass. Safe? You call this safe? You call me standing here humiliated in front of the world safe? You let me look stupid while you schemed behind my back, and now you expect me to thank you for it? Her voice cracked with pain, but her words carried fire. The audience leaped to its feet, chanting her name, Rasheeda, Rasheeda. Mendeecees shook his head, his voice low but firm. Nah, Kirk, you played her. You used her loyalty to cover your lies. And now everybody knows the truth. You can't hide from it anymore. The cameras zoomed in on Kirk's face, pale and defeated, his eyes glassy. He had no more words, no more defenses. Kendra collapsed against the arm of the sofa, sobbing uncontrollably. Rasheeda stood tall, broken but unbowed, her fury etched across her face. This wasn't just a marriage ending. It was an empire falling apart, under the harsh glare of studio lights and millions of eyes. Backstage, the producers whispered frantically, debating whether to cut the feed or let the drama ride. One executive hissed into a headset, "This is history, don't touch a thing." Meanwhile, the cast sat in stunned silence. Yandy shook her head, murmuring, "This is why I always say truth, don't stay buried. It always finds daylight." Spice leaned toward Sierra and whispered, "Chili, this is bigger than love and hip-hop. This is scandal territory." Carly, barely containing her thrill, whispered, "I knew it. I always knew Kirk had something deeper going on." And Kendra, Lord, she about to lose it all. On social media, the reaction was a frenzy. Fans were divided, some calling Kirk a manipulator, others dragging Kendra for betraying a fellow woman, and a few questioning Mendeecees' motives. Why did he wait until now to spill everything? What did he gain from this nuclear reveal? TikTok videos dissected every frame. Twitter threads unraveled possible conspiracies. and Instagram lives lit up with cast members, friends weighing in. The internet wasn't just watching, they were participating, shaping the narrative in real time. And through it all, Rasheeda stood firm, her voice trembling but resolute. "You think you broke me tonight? Nah, you showed the world who you really are. And now, finally, I'm free from your lies." Her words were a dagger, slicing the last thread that held her marriage together. Kirk's face crumpled, Kendra sobbed harder, and Mendeecees leaned back with the satisfaction of a man who had delivered the final blow. The Frost marriage wasn't just ending, it was exploding in front of millions, leaving nothing but ashes and questions in its wake. The studio lights burned hotter than ever. But it wasn't the bulbs above that made everyone sweat, it was the heat of secrets finally dragged into daylight. Rasheeda's declaration had drawn a line no one could erase. On one side stood the truth, jagged and unforgiving. On the other side, Kirk and Kendra, exposed and unraveling. The roar of the audience hadn't calmed. They shouted Rasheeda's name like a rallying cry, stamping their feet, clapping their hands, feeding off the energy of her rage. This wasn't just television anymore, this was history, and every second of it was being etched into the collective memory of fans who would replay it again and again. Kirk leaned forward, desperate, his voice cracking. "Rasheeda, please. Don't let them tear apart what we built. Don't let a man who don't care about us destroy 20 years of our life." He gestured wildly toward Mendeecees, sweat gleaming on his forehead. "He don't know what we've been through. He don't know what sacrifices we made." But the audience wasn't buying it. Boos rained down from the crowd, drowning him out. Rasheeda's response came cold and final. "The only one who destroyed this marriage is you. Every secret, every betrayal, you made those choices, Kirk. And now we're all paying for it." Kendra's sobs grew louder, the mascara streaks on her cheeks turning her face into a mask of guilt. Jock finally stood up, his voice rising in frustration. "Kendra, you got me out here looking stupid too. You supposed to be my wife, my partner. How you get caught up in his mess, hiding stuff from me and everybody else?" His words hit her like a slap, and she shook her head violently. "I swear, Jock, it wasn't what it looks like. I never," but he cut her off, his voice booming. Don't even try to explain. You sitting here crying, but you ain't crying for me. You ain't crying for Rasheeda, you crying 'cause you got caught." The audience erupted with shouts and gasps. Jock's anger wasn't rehearsed. It was raw, and his betrayal bled through every word. Carly Red leaned in, wide-eyed, whispering just loud enough for the microphones to pick up. "Oh, this is about to break Atlanta in half." Her words weren't wrong. The alliances on stage were shifting right before everyone's eyes. Yandi placed a comforting hand on Rasheeda's shoulder, her voice full of steel. "Sis, you don't owe these men nothing. You already gave them everything. It's time you walk away with your crown." The audience cheered, women in the crowd, standing up, clapping, shouting, "Yes, walk away, queen." Rasheeda, tears still clinging to her lashes, nodded slowly, her body trembling with equal parts devastation and resolve. Mendeecees leaned forward, the calmest man in the room, his voice slicing through the noise. "You all mad at me for saying it, but I didn't create this. They did. Kirk and Kendra made this bed, and now they gotta lay in it." His words stirred the pot even further. Fans at home lit up the internet with memes of Mendeecees as the truth dealer, while others accused him of stirring chaos just for revenge. Speculation spread. Was this his payback for years of tension with Kirk? Was there more he hadn't said yet? The unanswered questions fueled the frenzy. Meanwhile, Kirk broke down, his voice breaking into sobs he could no longer control. "Rasheeda, I love you. I've always loved you. Everything I did, it was for us. Please don't do this here. Please don't let the world watch us fall apart." He reached out again, but Rasheeda pulled away as if his touch burned her. "Love, you don't get to use that word anymore. Love don't hide secrets. Love don't humiliate me over and over. Love don't leave me standing in front of cameras to be laughed at while you make a fool of me." Her voice shook with emotion, but her words were clear and sharp, a final dagger twisting in Kirk's chest. The audience jumped to their feet, cheering wildly, some even crying along with her. The producers let the cameras roll, knowing they had struck gold. Security moved closer, sensing Jock's temper rising as he glared at Kendra. She reached for him, pleading, "Baby, please. I didn't want this. I was trying to protect you too." But Jock shoved her hand away, his voice breaking. "Protect me? You lied to me. You put me in the middle of this circus, made me look like a fool in front of the whole world. You ain't protecting nothing, you destroyed everything." The studio gasped, fans clutching their chests, others shouting, "Leave her, Jock, she don't deserve you." The cast sat in stunned silence. Spice leaned back, her eyes wide, whispering, "This ain't no storyline anymore, this is people's lives burning right in front of us." Sierra wiped tears from her eyes, whispering to herself, "Lord, let this woman find peace." Even Carly, usually quick to capitalize on drama, was left speechless, her lips parted in shock. The stage wasn't just hot, it was boiling, every emotion raw, every reaction unscripted. Online, the fallout grew by the second. Hashtag Rasheeda Speechert trended worldwide, fans flooding her social media with support. "Queen, we stand with you," one Instagram comment read, gathering hundreds of thousands of likes. "Leave him, sis, you deserve so much more," another fan wrote. Meanwhile, Kirk's accounts were flooded with backlash, fans calling him the biggest villain in reality TV history. Kendra faced her own storm, dragged by women online for betraying Rasheeda and embarrassing Jock. "Sis, how you fumble both men and your reputation in one night." One tweet mocked, racking up retweets by the thousands. The internet had chosen sides, and it was clear Rasheeda was the hero, Kirk and Kendra the villains. On stage, the tension refused to die. Rasheeda's voice dropped low, trembling but steady enough for every microphone to catch. "This marriage, this lie, it's dead. And I'll never, ever let another man use me as his cover again." The audience roared, standing ovations shaking the studio walls. Kirk crumbled into his seat, his head buried in his hands, while Kendra sobbed uncontrollably. Jock turned his back on her, refusing to even look in her direction. And Mendeecees, he sat tall, his expression unreadable, like a man who had finally unburdened himself of a truth he had carried too long. But the chaos wasn't done, not even close. As the cameras zoomed in on Rasheeda's tear-streaked but unbroken face, the producers knew the story had only just begun. The Frost Empire had fallen, but the ripples were spreading fast, promising even more destruction in the days to come. The applause and shouting from the audience had barely calmed when Rasheeda stepped forward, her voice trembling but commanding. The mic picked up every syllable, and though she was clearly shaken, the conviction in her tone made the entire room fall silent again. "For years, I defended a man who didn't deserve me. I let the world think I was weak, think I would stay no matter what. But tonight, in front of everybody, I'm taking my power back." Her words struck like lightning, sending shockwaves not just through the studio but through every living room, watching at home. The crowd erupted again, fans standing on their feet, clapping, screaming her name. Even people in the back row were crying, moved by the raw pain and strength pouring out of her. Kirk tried to rise from his seat, his face crumpled, his hands reaching for her as if sheer proximity might stop her from slipping away forever. "Rasheeda, baby, please, don't do this here. Not like this. We can fix it. We can go home and talk." She spun on him with a glare that froze him in place. "Home? You think there's still a home after this? You destroyed that with every secret, every lie. You took our marriage, our family, and you made it into a storyline for the world to laugh at. And you want me to pretend it's fixable? No. That house you're talking about burned down a long time ago, Kirk. I'm just now walking out of the ashes." The audience roared again, and even the cast couldn't hold back their reactions. Spice shouted, "Period," from her seat, while Yandi clapped so hard her rings glinted under the stage lights. Jock, pacing with his head in his hands, muttered, "This is insane. I can't even believe this is my life right now." Kendra sobbed harder, her voice cracking as she tried to plead her case. "Rasheeda, please listen. I never meant for it to hurt you. It was just about business money, deals, investments. We were trying to keep everything from falling apart." But Rasheeda's laugh cut through her sobs like a knife. "Don't insult me with excuses. You were sitting in my house, eating my food, smiling in my face, while you were neck-deep in secrets with my husband. That ain't business, that's betrayal, and you know it." The studio audience booed Kendra loudly, their voices rising into a chant. "Liar, liar." Jock turned to her, his face twisted in disgust. "You see what you did? You dragged me down with you. You had me out here defending you, fighting for you, and you out here covering for Kirk, like he your partner." He shook his head, stepping back as if the sight of her disgusted him. "I can't even look at you right now." The cameras zoomed in on Rasheeda again, and she stared directly into the lens, her voice steady. "To every woman watching this, don't ever let anyone make you feel like you gotta accept less than you deserve. Don't let anyone make you believe you gotta suffer to prove you loyal. Loyalty without honesty is slavery, and I refuse to wear those chains one more day." The crowd exploded in cheers, chanting her name again, Rasheeda, Rasheeda, Rasheeda. Hashtags lit up Twitter within seconds. Hashtag free, RASHEEDA, hashtag Queen Energy, hashtag divorce season. Fans were calling her the hero of the season, the one who finally broke free from Kirk's web of lies. But not everyone was celebrating. Kirk's face had gone pale, beads of sweat dripping down his forehead as he stared at the floor. His voice breaking into a whisper barely caught by the mic. I didn't mean to lose you. I didn't mean for it to end like this. Mendeecees, still calm and collected, leaned forward with a smirk. You didn't mean it. That's the problem, Kirk. You never mean it until it blows up in your face. You spent years building castles out of lies, and now they crashing down. Don't blame me for lighting the match. You built the pyre yourself. The crowd hollered in agreement, some even standing to point at Kirk with boos and shouts. Carly Red, never one to let the moment pass without inserting herself, raised her eyebrows dramatically. So wait, y'all telling me all them business rumors, all the missing money, all the whispers, this what it was about? Kirk and Kendra covering each other. The audience gasped at her bluntness, and Yandi clapped her hands together with a sly grin. Exactly. That's what we've been saying. But y'all didn't want to hear it from me. You needed Mendeecees to drop it like a bomb for the world to believe it. Kendra buried her face in her hands, sobbing, while Jock barked out a humorless laugh. This is unreal. The mother of my kids sitting here protecting another man's secrets. Nah, I can't even nah. He stormed across the stage, pacing like a man on the verge of breaking something. Security stepped closer, unsure if the tension would boil over into violence. But Jock kept his distance, his anger spilling out in words instead of fists. You embarrassed me, Kendra. You embarrassed our family. And for what? For Kirk Frost. The audience screamed at his words, their shock echoing back at the stage. Rasheeda, meanwhile, had gone quiet, her chest rising and falling rapidly as tears streamed down her face. But when she spoke again, her voice was steady, almost chilling. This ain't just about me. It's about every woman who ever loved a man who didn't love her enough to be honest. It's about every wife who gave her all, while her husband was out here chasing shadows. I'm done being the example of forgiveness. Tonight, I'm the example of walking away. Fans online exploded, flooding timelines with support. Rasheeda just gave the speech of the season, one fan wrote. Another tweeted, she said loyalty without honesty is slavery. I felt that in my soul. Clips of her speech spread like wildfire, racking up millions of views within hours. Celebrities began chiming in. Reality stars, influencers, even mainstream musicians retweeted her words with captions like, she's right, and she said it with her chest. Kirk finally snapped, his voice booming over the chaos. Fine, you wanna leave me? Leave me. But don't act like you didn't know what this life was. Don't act like you wasn't eating off the same plate that came from my hustle. You knew? You always knew. His words shocked the room into silence again, the implication hanging heavy in the air. Rasheeda's face twisted with rage, and she pointed at him with shaking hands. Don't you dare try to put this on me. I built my own empire. I stood on my own 2 feet while you dragged my name through the mud. You think I'm eating off your plate? No. Kirk, you've been eating off mine. The audience lost their minds at that line, screaming so loud the microphones nearly distorted. Yandi jumped to her feet, clapping furiously. Yes, Queen, say it louder for the people in the back. The crowd picked up the chant again. Rasheeda, Rasheeda, Rasheeda. Kirk slumped back into his chair, defeated, unable to respond. His empire, his pride, his marriage all collapsing in real time. And there was nothing he could do to stop it. Mendeecees leaned back, satisfied, his job done. The bomb had been dropped, the fallout irreversible. But the fans wanted more. Social media demanded to know the full extent of the pact between Kirk and Kendra. What deals? What money? What lies? The internet buzzed with conspiracy theories, some claiming secret businesses, others alleging hidden children, others whispering about law enforcement. The speculation was endless, and the producers knew they had struck a cultural nerve bigger than any storyline they had ever crafted. And yet, through the screams, the tears, the rage, Rasheeda stood tall. She had walked through fire, and though she was scarred, she was unbroken. The crowd's chants became her anthem, and the world's eyes were locked on her every move. Kirk and Kendra had been exposed, Jock had been humiliated, and Mendeecees had secured his role as the truth-teller no one could ignore. But for Rasheeda, this was only the beginning of a new chapter, one without Kirk Frost. The chants in the studio echoed so loud that even the producers in the control room had their hands pressed to their headsets. Do we cut? Do we roll credits? one of them asked frantically, but the head producer shook his head, eyes glued to the monitor. No, we let it ride. This is lightning in a bottle. Don't touch it. On stage, the noise built to a fever pitch. Fans stomped their feet, clapped their hands, and hollered Rasheeda's name until it thundered in the air like a war cry. The spotlight swung back to her as if the cameras themselves understood who the center of this storm was. Rasheeda lifted her chin, her tears drying under the heat of the lights. You think this is entertainment, she said, her voice steady but raw. But this is my life. And if my pain entertains the world, then let it also teach the world something. Don't you dare ever tell a woman to stay quiet, to swallow her pride, to forgive until she's nothing but a shadow of herself. Tonight, I refuse to be silent. The audience shot to their feet, applause roaring through the building. Fans screamed her name as if she were a headliner on stage. Hashtags blew up instantly. Hashtag RASHEEDA, refuses. Hashtag Queen Energy. Hashtag no more lies. Kirk's head remained buried in his hands, his body shaking with silent sobs. The man who once strutted with confidence, who dismissed every accusation with slick words, was reduced to a broken figure under the glare of his own deceit. He finally raised his head, his eyes red, and muttered into the mic, "You don't understand. Everything I did, I thought I was protecting you." Rasheeda laugh sliced through him like a blade. Protecting me? You call this protection? Lying to me, embarrassing me, dragging me through scandal after scandal. If that's your idea of protection, then God help any woman who falls for a man like you. The audience booed him so loudly the sound drowned out the next words he tried to say. Kendra sat shaking, her face streaked with mascara, her sobs turning to gasps. Jock turned toward her again, his fury raw and unfiltered. I don't even know who you are anymore. You stood by me, called yourself my wife, while you were running around cleaning up his mess. You betrayed, not just Rasheeda, not just me, you betrayed everybody. Kendra reached for him, desperate. I swear, Jock, I wasn't trying to betray you. I thought I was protecting both of us. Jock pulled away, his voice cracking. Protecting us? By lying to my face, by siding with him instead of me. Nah, you destroyed us. Kendra, you destroyed everything. The crowd's reaction was electric. Gasps, screams, boos. Women in the front row shouted, "Leave her, Jock. She don't deserve you." One fan even yelled, "Kendra for the streets," sparking laughter through the audience. The camera caught Jock's face, twisted with grief and anger, his entire image shaken by what had come to light. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was public, and there was no coming back from that. Mendeecees leaned forward again, his voice smooth, deliberate. You see how quick the truth changes everything? Kirk thought he could control the narrative. Kendra thought she could cry her way out. But the truth don't need no script. It speaks for itself. The crowd cheered at his words, and social media exploded with memes of Mendeecees holding a microphone with captions like, "Truth Dealer of the Year." Others painted him as the villain, accusing him of blowing up lives for his own satisfaction. Twitter debates raged. Was he a hero for exposing Kirk and Kendra, or a snake for choosing this moment to strike? Meanwhile, Rasheeda turned to face the audience fully, her voice trembling with resolve. I stayed too long. I gave too much. And now, in front of everybody, I'm taking back what's mine, my peace, my dignity, my life. The audience thundered, stomping so hard the floor rattled. Yandi wiped a tear from her eye, clapping. Sis, you speaking for all of us right now. Spice shouted from her seat. Come on, Queen. Carly Red, ever the instigator, shook her head in disbelief. I can't believe Kirk Frost really risked it all for this mess. All that history, all that family, and for what? Kirk jumped up suddenly, his voice raised, desperation spilling out. Don't let them twist it, Rasheeda. You know what we've been through. You know what we built. Don't let them tear us apart after everything we survived. But his pleas only fueled the fire. Rasheeda pointed at him with fire in her eyes. You tore us apart, Kirk. Every secret, every betrayal, it was you. Don't you dare stand here and act like I'm the one walking away for no reason. You gave me a million reasons, and tonight, I finally listened. The audience cheered, fans shouting her name over and over. Kirk's shoulders slumped, his body sagging under the weight of her truth. Kendra let out a fresh sob, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Jock. Rasheeda, I never wanted it to end like this. But the crowd booed her mercilessly, their voices drowning out her cries. Jock turned his back on her, his voice low but filled with venom. You sorry now? You wasn't sorry when you were sitting in rooms lying to my face. You wasn't sorry when you let me go out there defending you. Nah, you can keep your sorry. I don't want it. The cameras swung to the cast, catching their stunned expressions. Sierra clutched her chest, whispering to Spice, "This is too much. Girl, this ain't even drama anymore, this is destruction." Spice nodded, her eyes wide, and the world watching it live. Outside the studio, social media turned the moment into a cultural earthquake. Blogs dropped instant headlines. Kirk and Kendra's pact exposed live on LHHATL. Rasheeda declares divorce in explosive showdown. Fans on Instagram Lives debated theories. Some convinced Kirk and Kendra had been funneling money through shady deals, others swearing there were secret kids involved. TikTok edits flooded For You pages. Clips of Rasheeda's speeches remixed with music, her words becoming rallying cries. Even celebrities outside the franchise chimed in, singers, rappers, and influencers dropping cryptic tweets and emojis, hinting they knew more than they could say. Back on stage, the atmosphere grew heavier by the second. Security lingered at the edges, ready in case Jock lost his temper completely. The producers whispered in their headsets, "This is bigger than the show now, we have to be careful." But careful wasn't in the cards. The truth had already detonated, and there was no putting the pieces back together. Rasheeda turned back to Kirk one last time, her eyes cold, her voice steady. "You wanted to keep your secrets. Fine, keep them. But you don't get to keep me." The audience screamed so loud the sound shook the cameras. Kirk crumbled back into his chair, defeated, his tears flowing openly now. Kendra sobbed into her hands, Jock pacing like a storm, ready to break. Mendeecees leaned back, his job complete, his face unreadable. The Frost Empire had collapsed live, in front of millions. And though the cameras kept rolling, everyone knew they were no longer just filming reality TV, they were filming history. The stage felt like it was vibrating under the weight of the drama. Rasheeda's last words, "You don't get to keep me," kept echoing even after the applause died down. Fans online were typing it into captions, editing it into memes, and screaming it in comment sections like a war slogan. Kirk sat slumped forward, his face buried in his palms, shoulders shaking as the audience continued to boo. Kendra's cries only grew louder, but nobody was listening anymore. Jock's pacing had become erratic, his sneakers squeaking against the stage floor as security kept a careful eye on him. The entire cast sat paralyzed, their usual readiness to jump in replaced by genuine shock at the gravity of the moment. The host tried to step in, voice trembling. "All right, y'all, we need to calm this down for a second." But nobody was calming down. Rasheeda raised her hand, silencing the room again. "No, let them keep the cameras on. The world deserves to see this for what it is." The truth finally catching up to Kirk Frost. The audience erupted, women standing in solidarity, chanting her name once more. Jock turned suddenly, pointing at Kendra. "And you, what else you hiding? What else you ain't told me?" Kendra shook her head violently, her words tumbling out through sobs. "Nothing. I swear." "That's it." Jock scoffed, pacing again. "That's it? After you already lied to me once, you think anybody gonna believe you now?" The crowd roared with agreement, booing her again. Carly Red, her eyes glittering with messy delight, leaned forward in her chair. "So wait, you mean to tell me this whole time, while Rasheeda was fighting for her marriage, you two were running around behind the scenes, tied up in dirty deals?" The way she asked it, her voice dripping with judgment, made Kendra break down even harder. Yandi rolled her eyes and leaned toward Rasheeda. "See, I told you, men ain't built for this type of honesty, and these women who helped them cover up, they just as guilty." The crowd clapped furiously, shouting, "Tell it, Yandi." Meanwhile, Spice whispered to Sierra, "Girl, this gonna end up on every blog tomorrow. Shade Room, Hollywood Unlocked, you name it." Sierra nodded, still covering her mouth in disbelief. "It's already there," she said, pointing to her phone where thousands of live comments flooded in. Then, out of nowhere, Kirk finally stood up, his voice hoarse but loud enough to quiet the room. "All right, you want the truth? Fine, you gonna get it? Yeah, me and Kendra had business. Yeah, we covered each other. But don't act like I was the only one trying to survive out here. Don't act like everybody in this room ain't got skeletons they praying never see daylight." His words sent a ripple of shock across the stage. The cast members shifted uncomfortably, side eyes flying. The audience gasped, hungry for more. Rasheeda's jaw dropped. "So now you gonna deflect? You gonna drag everybody else down with you?" Kirk pointed at Mendeecees. "He ain't no saint. He up here acting like he the moral compass, but I know things about him too." The crowd screamed in shock, people jumping to their feet. Mendeecees smirked "Go ahead, Kirk, say it. Try to flip the script. It won't save you. The truth already cut too deep." Kirk stepped forward, veins bulging in his neck. "You want to expose me? Then let's talk about your dirt. Let's talk about the calls you made, the deals you done, the people you stepped on to get where you at. The studio exploded, fans yelling, "What's he talking about?" Jock threw his hands up, furious. "See? This is why nobody trusts you, Kirk. Always pointing fingers when it's you in the hot seat." Rasheeda cut through the noise, her voice firm. "You don't get to rewrite this. Tonight ain't about nobody else, it's about you, Kirk, and me, and the lies you dragged me through." The audience clapped, echoing her words back like gospel. About you, about you. At that moment, producers backstage were panicking. Their phones buzzed nonstop as blogs and news outlets demanded statements. Twitter was trending with hashtags like #FrostFallout, #TeamRasheeda, and #KendraExposed. Clips of Kirk shouting, Rasheeda declaring her freedom, and Jock confronting Kendra were already at millions of views. Some celebrities were even going live to react in real time. The scandal wasn't just on the show anymore, it had spilled into the culture. Back on stage, Jock finally stopped pacing. He turned to Kendra, his face stone cold. "You broke this? You broke us. And I can't keep pretending like I can fix it. You made your choice when you chose him over me." His voice cracked, but his words were final. The audience gasped, some shouting, "Leave her, Jock." Kendra reached for him desperately, but he pulled away, shaking his head. "Don't touch me." Her sobs filled the room, but no one offered comfort. Rasheeda stood tall, her voice rising above the chaos. "I'm done with lies. I'm done with betrayal. And if this is what it takes to finally be free, then let the world watch." The audience exploded, stomping and cheering as the cameras zoomed in on her tear-streaked but unbroken face. The Frost Empire had collapsed in front of millions, but the shockwaves were still spreading. The cast was divided, the audience was electric, and the fans online were demanding more. Secrets were no longer whispers, they were weapons, and this war had only just begun. The stage was thick with tension, the kind of tension that clings to the skin like smoke after a fire. Kirk's outburst had shifted the energy in the room again, pushing it from grief and betrayal to something far darker, retaliation. His voice still echoed in the rafters. He ain't no saint, and every cast member sat frozen, waiting to see if he would actually pull the trigger on exposing Mendeecees. The audience was split between boos and wild screams, their voices blending into a wall of noise that the producers didn't dare cut off. Rasheeda looked at Kirk like he was a stranger, her tears drying on her cheeks as her anger hardened into stone. "So that's what you gonna do now? You gonna try to drag somebody else down so you don't have to face yourself?" she shouted. The crowd clapped wildly, chanting her name again. Kirk raised his arms, desperate. "You think I'm the only one with dirt? Nah, you think Mendeecees is clean. Ask him about the phone calls. Ask him about the favors. Ask him who he been covering for all these years." The studio gasped in unison. Carly's mouth dropped open, and she leaned so far forward she almost slid off her chair. "Oh, what phone calls?" she shrieked, feeding the frenzy. Spice clutched Sierra's arm, whispering, "Lord, this about to get dangerous." Mendeecees sat up straight, the smirk gone now, his eyes sharp and deadly. "You really want to go there, Kirk?" His tone was low, almost a warning. The audience hushed, sensing the battle about to unfold. Kirk nodded, defiant. "Yeah, let's go there. You sat up here exposing me like you cleaned, but you got skeletons rattling in closets so loud, I'm surprised we can't hear them right now." The room shook with gasps. Fans in the audience screamed, "Say it, say it," while social media went into meltdown mode. Tweets fired off like bullets. "Kirk, coming for Mendeecees now. Oh, this is war." Instagram lives started instantly, fans screen recording every second as the confrontation escalated. Rasheeda threw her hands up, her voice breaking. "I don't care about his dirt. This ain't about him. This is about you and me." But her plea was swallowed by the clash of two men who had finally turned their guns on each other. Jock, still reeling from his own betrayal, muttered bitterly, "This about to get ugly." Mendeecees leaned forward, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Go ahead, Kirk. Say what you think you know. Say it in front of the cameras, in front of your wife, in front of the world. But remember, once you let that truth out, there's no going back. And you better pray you ain't the only one who ends up ruined." The audience screamed like they were watching a heavyweight fight, each word another punch. Carly clapped her hands together gleefully. "Y'all, this is history. I ain't never seen nothing like this." Kendra, still sobbing, tried to intervene, her voice desperate. "Please, stop this. This is already too far." Jock snapped his head toward her. "Too far. Girl, it was too far the moment you picked Kirk over your own husband." His words landed like a slap, and the crowd cheered, chanting Jock's name now. Meanwhile, Rasheeda sat trembling, torn between fury at Kirk and fear of what might come spilling out next. "Stop it," she begged, her voice cracking. "Stop dragging everybody down with you." But Kirk was already too far gone, his pride shredded, his empire crumbling. "Nah," he snarled, pointing at Mendeecees. "If I burn, he burns too." The room exploded. Fans screamed. Phones shot into the air to record every second. Security inched closer to the stage. The cast members shifted nervously, some whispering to each other, others sitting in stunned silence. The producers whispered furiously into headsets, debating whether to step in, but the head producer barked, "Let it roll. This is the biggest moment we'll ever film." Mendeecees stood, towering over Kirk, his voice steady but full of warning. "You sure you want to do this? 'Cause I promise you, the truth about me won't save you, it'll destroy both of us." The crowd roared, some shouting, "Do it," while others screamed, "Don't." The tension was unbearable, the line between reality TV and real life gone. And through it all, Rasheeda's voice rose one last time, trembling with pain but ringing with truth. "This ain't survival. This is suicide. And you dragging all of us with you." The cameras zoomed in tight, catching every tear, every glare, every flicker of rage. The Frost Empire was gone. The friendships were fractured. The secrets were spilling faster than anyone could stop them. And the fans. They were eating up every second, already calling it the most explosive moment in love and hip-hop history. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Even the audience, who had been screaming and chanting non-stop, grew quieter as Kirk and Mendeecees stared each other down. The lights seemed harsher now, every drop of sweat on Kirk's forehead glistening, every twitch in Mendeecees' jaw captured by the camera. The energy had shifted into something far more dangerous than gossip. It was the raw thread of truths that could not be buried once spoken. Kirk's chest rose and fell heavily as he pointed straight at Mendeecees. "You want to play judge and jury with my life? Fine, but let's not act like you the savior. How many calls you think I got from people asking why your name kept coming up in things it wasn't supposed to? How many favors you think you begged me for so your own dirt wouldn't come out?" The audience gasped, the sound like a wave crashing against the stage. Carly Red nearly leaped out of her seat, yelling, "What dirt?" while Spice covered her mouth, whispering, "Oh my God. Oh my God." Mendeecees clenched his fists, his calm demeanor beginning to crack. He stepped closer to Kirk, his voice low but venomous. "Say it, Kirk. Go ahead. Tell them what you think you know. But remember, when you open that door, you don't get to close it. And once I start talking, your whole world won't just burn, it'll turn to ash." The audience screamed, half of them on their feet, others clutching each other's arms in disbelief. Social media lit up like fireworks, hashtags exploding, hashtag Kirk vs Mendeecees, hashtag secrets on secrets, hashtag the showdown. Twitter debates erupted instantly. Was Kirk bluffing, or was Mendeecees hiding something bigger than anyone imagined? Rasheeda, trembling, stepped between them, her voice breaking. "Stop it. Stop it right now. This is insane. This isn't about proving who's worse. This is about my marriage, my life, and y'all turning it into a battlefield." She turned to Kirk, tears streaming again. "You couldn't just admit what you did, you had to drag everyone else down with you. And you, Mendeecees, you didn't say this to protect me. You said it to destroy him. And now, I'm caught in the middle of two men fighting with secrets like they bullets." The crowd hushed, her words cutting through the madness. Kendra sobbed louder, rocking back and forth. Jock snapped at her, his voice harsh. "You better pray he don't start naming names. You better pray he don't pull you deeper than you already in." His tone was sharp enough to make her flinch, and the audience roared at his anger. Carly shouted, "Say the names. Say them." Egging the chaos on. Kirk's eyes narrowed, his voice growing louder. "You think you clean men? You ain't clean. You made deals with people who would end your whole career if the wrong word got out. You begged me to cover for you. You begged me to keep quiet when folks started asking why money was missing, why names didn't match. Don't stand there acting righteous when I know you need deep in lies too." The studio exploded. Fans screamed, people in the crowd yelling receipts. Receipts. Phones shot into the air, recording every second. Social media caught fire instantly, clips uploaded to Twitter and TikTok within seconds. Bloggers typing headlines in real time. Kirk accuses Mendeecees of hidden deals. Is Mendeecees next to fall? Mendeecees smirked, but there was fire in his eyes now. "You really want to go there? Fine, you covered for me. Cool, but you know what else? I covered for you too. You want to talk about names on paperwork? What about the nights you spent making calls you didn't want Rasheeda to know about? What about the investments you hid overseas? What about the people who came to me asking if I knew where Kirk Frost was hiding money? The gasps were deafening. The audience screamed like they'd been physically struck by the revelation. Rasheeda's knees buckled, and she clutched her chest. Money. Overseas. She whispered, her voice trembling. Kirk stammered, his composure cracking. That ain't what it sounds like. But Mendeecees stepped closer, his voice booming. Oh, it's exactly what it sounds like. You ain't just lying to your wife, Kirk, you lying to Uncle Sam too. The room erupted. Fans screamed, some clutching their heads in disbelief. Carly shrieked so loud the mic distorted. Not the feds. Jock threw his hands in the air. Brr, you really that stupid? The crowd's roar was deafening. Chants breaking out. Lock him up. Lock him up. Rasheeda's sobs turned to screams, her voice cracking as she pointed at Kirk. You risked everything. Our family, our kids, our businesses, you risked all of it, playing games with money. The audience shouted her name again, standing and cheering as she collapsed into Yandy's arms. Yandy's voice was sharp, steady. I told you, sis. Men like him don't think about nothing but themselves. And now, he got you standing in front of the world, carrying his shame again. Kendra's sobs turned frantic, her voice shrill. I didn't know about that. Jock barked out a laugh so cold it silenced the room. You didn't know? Girl, please. You've been covering his mess all along. You knew more than anybody. The audience booed her again, their chants drowning out her cries. The cast shifted nervously, the atmosphere electric and dangerous. Spice leaned toward Sierra. Girl, if the Fed's watching, this man just signed his own warrant on live TV. Sierra shook her head, whispering, this bigger than reality TV now. This man about to go down for real. And through the noise, Mendeecees stood tall, his voice cutting through the chaos. So, go ahead, Kirk. Keep lying, keep deflecting, but just know the wall's closing in. And when they come knocking, you ain't dragging me down with you. The audience roared, phones recording, fans chanting Rasheeda's name louder than ever. Social media spun into a frenzy, blogs already posting headlines like Frost finances under fire. Rasheeda betrayed again, fans demand justice. Rasheeda, her voice breaking, lifted her head and looked at the camera. This is the man I gave my life to, and he risked it all for lies, for money, for betrayal. I can't save him anymore, and I won't. The crowd went wild. Kirk slumped back into his chair, defeated, while Mendeecees stood victorious, the truth burning the stage to the ground. The Frost Empire wasn't just collapsing anymore, it was crumbling into dust. And that, family, is where the night turned into history. A marriage shattered in real time, secrets spilling like floodwater, alliances breaking before our eyes. Fans are calling it the most explosive moment in love and hip-hop history, and who can argue? Rasheeda stood her ground. Kirk crumbled under the weight of his lies. Kendra's tears fell on deaf ears, and Mendeecees, he walked away with the satisfaction of a man who knew the truth would always win, no matter how messy. But here's the thing, the story isn't over. The Frost Empire has fallen, yes, but the ashes are still smoldering. What happens when the cameras cut and the cast walks off that stage? Will Jock end his marriage for good? Will Kendra try to rebuild her image after being dragged by fans? Will Kirk face more than just humiliation? Will those whispers about money and paperwork turn into something far more dangerous? And what about Rasheeda? She's walking away stronger than ever. But will she finally get the peace she's been denied for so long? Or will the shadows of Kirk's choices follow her into the next chapter? The fans are already making their voices heard, and now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Rasheeda right to call it quits live on camera? Did Kirk just dig his own grave by trying to take everyone else down with him? And is Mendeecees really the hero in this story, or just another man using the truth as a weapon? Drop your thoughts in the comments right now, because this conversation is bigger than the show. It's about loyalty, betrayal, and knowing when to finally walk away. Make sure you hit that like button if you're standing with Rasheeda. Smash that subscribe if you're ready for even more shocking reveals. And turn on your notifications so you don't miss the next bombshell, we promise. The tea is only getting hotter. And don't just watch, join the debate, because in this world, the drama doesn't stop when the cameras cut. It lives on in every headline, every hashtag, and every one of you who keeps the fire burning. So tell us, whose side are you really on?